Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. It's from Canto 3, which is entitled The Status Quo, Chapter 2, entitled Remembrance of Lord Krishna, and this morning we're doing text number 4. We're very fortunate to have Her Grace Anandarupa DD from ISKCON DC to give a class. Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Jai.
Glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to Guru and Gauranga. Let's start with Jai Radha Madhav prayers. Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari, Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana, Yashodanandana Vrajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanijari, Yamuna Tira Vanijari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava Kunj Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna.
Jai.
So, let's do the Prem Dhwani prayers. Jai Vishnupad Paramhams Parivrajakacarya Shtotar Shat Srimad, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti-Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
Jai Vishnupad Paramhams Parivrajakacarya Shtotar Shat Srimad, His Divine Grace Bhakti-Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. नामाचार्य श्रीला हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्णा चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंदा श्री अद्वैता गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन की जय। वृंदावन धाम की जय, मायापुर धाम की जय, जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की जय, गंगा माई की जय, जमुना माई की जय, भक्तिमयी तुलसी देवी की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णविन की जय। All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiriyet. Shravtam swakatha Krishna punya shravana kirtana Hridayantasto he bhadrani vidunoti surhatsatam. Nashtaprayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagvat sevaya. Bhagavate ruttam shloke bhaktir bhavati nashtaki. So today we are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 2, Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, which is titled Remembrance of the Lord, and the text number is 4. Muhūrtam abhūt tūṣṇīṁ kṛṣṇāṅghri-sudhayā bhṛśam tīvreṇa bhakti-yogena nimagnaḥ sādhu nirvṛtaḥ. muhūrtam abhūt tūṣṇīṁ kṛṣṇāṅghri-sudhayā bhṛśam tīvreṇa bhakti-yogena nimagnaḥ sādhu nirvṛtaḥ. muhūrtam abhūt tūṣṇīṁ shuddhaya. muhūrtam abhūt tūṣṇīṁ kṛṣṇāṅghri-sudhayā bhṛśam tīvreṇa bhakti-yogena nimagnaḥ sādhu nirvṛtaḥ. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Muhūrtam abhūt tūṣṇīṁ kṛṣṇāṅghri-sudhayā bhṛśam tīvreṇa bhakti-yogena nimagnaḥ sādhu nirvṛtaḥ. Hare Krishna.
Haribol, anyone else likes to read? Okay.
Hare Krishna. Muhūrtam abhūt tūṣṇīṁ kṛṣṇāṅghri-sudhayā bhṛśam tīvreṇa bhakti-yogena nimagnaḥ sādhu nirvṛtaḥ. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Synonyms. Uddhava, muhurtam, for a moment. Abhūt, became. Tūṣṇīṁ, dead silent. kṛṣṇāṅghri, the lotus feet of the Lord. Shuddhaya, by the nectar. bhṛśam, well matured. tīvreṇa, by very strong. bhakti-yogena, devotional service. nimagnaḥ, absorbed in. Sādhu, good. nirvṛtaḥ, fully in love. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. For a moment he remained dead silent, and for those who don't know, here he represents Uddhav. So for a moment he remained dead silent and his body did not move. He became absorbed in nectar of remembering the Lord's lotus feet in devotional ecstasy, and he appeared to be going increasingly deeper into that ecstasy. Purport. Jai Srila Prabhupada. On the inquiry by Vidur about Krishna, Uddhav appeared to be awakened from slumber. He appeared to regret that he had forgotten the lotus feet of the Lord. Thus he again remembered the lotus feet of the Lord and remembered all his transcendental loving service unto him. And by doing, he felt the same ecstasy that he used to feel in the presence of the Lord. Because the Lord is absolute, there is no difference between his remembrance and his personal presence. Thus, Uddhav remained completely silent for a moment, but then he appeared to be going deeper and deeper into ecstasy. Feelings of ecstasy are displayed by highly advanced devotees of the Lord. There are 8 kinds of transcendental changes in the body: tears, shivering of the body, perspiration, restlessness, throbbing, choking of the heart, etc. And all were manifested by Uddhav in presence of Vidur. Hare Krishna. So let us take blessings of our Vaishnavacharyas. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gaurvani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripa tadham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Guru Vrinda ki jai. Thank you, dear devotees, for this opportunity. So this whole chapter is so beautiful. And from the past chapter, many of you may remember, Vidur has been presenting enquiries to Uddhav. And Uddhav is quietly listening. But here now in this chapter, it is described how we should understand his silence. And actually, as spiritual beings, what is the correct application of silence in service of Guru and Krishna? So I will make an effort based on our Acharya's teachings. So basically, we jivas, living entities, are on a journey from forgetfulness to loving remembrance of the Lord. And sometimes silence speaks more than words. From childhood, I remember a very important idiom we were taught. It was when speech is silver, silence is golden. Many of you may remember it. So let me begin by asking you all a question. What occupies our mind when everything else becomes silent? Consider when you are driving alone, or when you wake up in the middle of night, or for example, you go for your routine blood tests, you're waiting, for the results. And nowadays you can check it online, but sometimes, there used to be times when people used to wait right there at the labs. For example, many of us have grown-up kids. We leave them messages, we call them sometimes, they are just too busy. They don't answer the phone calls. And we are waiting to hear from them. It seems like they're silent. And how about the professionals when their projects are failing for some reason? So I have given some instances, even in, in our spiritual practices, sometimes we are waiting to hear back and there is silence. So where does the mind naturally go? So Srimad Bhagavatam, through different pastimes, it identifies that our spontaneous remembrance reveals the deepest attachment of the heart. And today's verse is not simply about Uddhav becoming emotional. Okay, so we will learn how to understand this perfection of remembrance. From the 9 process of devotional service, we understand, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, right? Remembrance of the Lord, remembering Lord Vishnu. That is one of the process of devotional service. And so, as we, participate in this Srimad Bhagavatam reading, sometimes we hear one verse, but we also get into forgetfulness also. We lose the thread of conversation. So now let's have a quick recap that after the devastating Kurukshetra war, so many external victories have been achieved. If you see the world scenario, some wars are still going on. And yet, in some way, internally, living entities are experiencing in different ways separation. But here, Vidur, who throughout his life chose dharma over politics, many times I have given a recap and I have described how he leaves Hastinapur and goes on a pilgrimage. And he has seen a lot of politics, a lot of drama, a lot of envy destroy the families. He has seen greed destroy kingdoms, and he has seen power fail to produce happiness. So now he is a seeker. He's searching for one thing. He is looking for Sangha, where someone whose heart is filled with Krishna. So providentially, he meets Uddhav at the banks of Yamuna. Now, who is Uddhav? Anyone knows who is Uddhav? Hare Krishna. Anyone? Please raise your hand. Do you know who is Uddhav? I'm going to share anyway, but I thought I will quickly ask. It will help. Yes, Niru Mataji, who is Uddhav?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Hare Krishna, all the devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. Mataji, Uddhav is Krishna's very dear friend who is very much similar in his personality, similar to Krishna.
Okay.
His traits.
All right. So, Uddhav is not a scholar or administrator or a minister anymore. He is one whose every breath is dedicated to Krishna. This is what we should know. Now, Uddhav is also cousin of Krishna, actually. And the previous verses in this chapter, they talk about even as a 5-year-old child, Uddhav would worship a small deity of Krishna, and he would become so absorbed that he would forget to eat, even eat when his mother called. Small kids are very fascinated with, eating and, having fun and play. Yeah, so they have a very carefree kind of life. So now, but Uddhav's life was different. So, Vidar here asked, because of which we are having this flow of this chapter, Uddhav had asked, how is my beloved Krishna? And here, suddenly, Uddhav cannot speak. If we go back to the verse, this particular verse, well, let's see. This chapter started, the first verse says, Srila Shukdev Goswami said, when the great devotee Uddhav was asked by Vidur to speak on the messages of dearest Lord Krishna, Uddhav was unable to answer immediately due to excessive anxiety at the remembrance of the Lord. So in the past chapter, which is titled Enquiries by Vidur, Vidur asked about so many associates of Krishna, so many relatives. How are they doing? How are they faring? Are they doing okay? And then in the end, he says, how is, can you please glorify the Lord? Can you tell me about him? And this is Uddhav's situation now. And so it was mentioned that Uddhav was the one who, even in his childhood, at the age of 5 years, was so absorbed in service of Lord Krishna that when he was called by his mother for morning breakfast, he did not wish to have it. And Prabhupada explained that these are the signs of an eternally liberated soul. An eternally liberated soul, and if many of you remember, we read in sacred texts that there are Nitya Siddhas, Nitya Baddhas, right? Eternally liberated soul is the devotee of the Lord who never forgets him. And very nicely, again and again, we are explained that human life is meant for reviving one's eternal relationship with the Lord. And all the religious injunctions are meant for awakening this dormant instinct of living entity. And so somehow with all the spiritual practices and dedication and sincerity and, Guru and Krishna's mercy, devotee mercy, this awakening is brought about. The sooner this awakening is brought about, the quicker the mission of human life is fulfilled. And so a soul who is already advanced in devotional service has the opportunity to take birth in an enlightened family. And Srila Prabhupada says that even the fallen devotee gets opportunity to take his birth in the family of well-situated Brahman or in a rich, well-to-do mercantile family. What is the purpose? In both these families, there is a good opportunity to revive one's sense of God consciousness automatically. Because particularly in these families, the worship of Lord Krishna is regularly performed. And child gets opportunity to imitate process of worship. And we know what is that called? Archana. So, by grace of Lord, one is given the opportunity to engage in devotional service, beginning with Shravanam, Kirtanam, comes then Vishnu Smaranam, remembrance of the Lord. So then we read in this chapter, the third verse says, Uddhav thus served the Lord continually from childhood, and in his old age, that attitude of service never slackened. As soon as he was asked about message of the Lord, he at once remembered all about him. So that was spontaneous. And Srila Prabhupada says, transcendental service to Lord is not mundane. The service attitude of devotee gradually increases and never becomes slackened. So now we are going to touch a little bit on how in journey of the jivas, how they take different births. Fortunately, if they appear in human form and if they have still work to do, purification is needed, transformation in the heart is needed, so that they can spontaneously come to the platform of remembrance of the Lord. And for that, we need to look at few things, which is often better if we just reflect on that and internalize along with our eagerness and enthusiasm to serve. So Prabhupada says, Uddhav undoubtedly became old, but that doesn't mean that his spirit became old. His service attitude matured on the transcendental plane. And therefore, as soon as he was questioned by Vidur about Lord Krishna, he at once remembered his Lord by reference to the context and forgot himself on physical plane. Who else can you think of looking at this state of Uddhav? Now, Prabhupada says this is the sign of pure devotional service, okay? And further in Canto 3, we are going to read the pastime of Lord Kapila when he gives instruction to his mother, Devahuti, and he further explains all the symptoms. But as of now, based on Krishna book, anyone of you can remember who can we think of at such an advanced and exalted stage of devotional service? So yes, I'm talking about the gopis. So they were in separation, Vipramlamba Bhav, and here Uddhav is also in separation, in ecstasy. So this verse says, for a moment he remained dead silent, and his body did not move. And he became absorbed in nectar of remembering Lord's lotus feet in devotional ecstasy. And he appeared to be going increasingly deeper into this ecstasy. So now that I have shared with you that Uddhav was Krishna's cousin, and that Uddhav had every reason to actually identify himself as Krishna's cousin. He belonged to royal Yadu dynasty and was extraordinarily learned and influential. Yet Srimad Bhagavatam never glorifies him for his family connection. How do we learn? In what ways do we learn about Uddhav from Srimad Bhagavatam? He is glorified because he forgot his own identity in remembering Krishna. You know, in Bhagavad Gita, the famous verse, Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mamekam Sharanam Vraja, Krishna says, abandon all varieties of religion, all identities, just take shelter of me. So the message for us is, the highest identity is not our nationality, family, profession, lineage. It is our relationship as servants and lovers of Krishna. Rajivera Swarup Hoye Krishna Nityadas. If we can remember that, we can realize that, then we can be in remembrance of Krishna. So Uddhav's greatness is revealed by his own humility. When Krishna sent him to Vrindavan to console the gopis, Uddhav witnesses a level of love he has never experienced. And instead of thinking, I am Krishna's cousin and minister, what does he say? Vaishnavacharyas explain, he says, oh, let me become even a shrub, a creeper or a blade of grass in Vrindavan, so that I may receive dust of the feet of these gopis. So this is a very deep and profound lesson for all of us. Material relationships may bring us physically close to Krishna, but only pure devotion brings us close to his heart. And Uddhav's state here, what we are reading, he's not overwhelmed because he has lost a cousin. This, he's experiencing the ecstasy in separation because Krishna has left. He is overwhelmed because he is remembering his beloved Lord, Master, his friend, his very life of his soul. And his silence, he's silent, dead silent, it said. His silence is silence of a heart which is flooded with divine remembrance of Krishna. So now, this talk, this particular time, Srimad Bhagavatam presentation is around this silence. What is slumber? It says, on inquiry of Vidur about Krishna, Uddhav appeared to be awakened from slumber. Slumber is not an ordinary sleep. And Bhagavad Gita talks about it, that, Krishna says, what is night for living beings is time of awakening for self-control. So we develop understanding that the conditioned soul sleeps in identification with the temporary. I am my designation, I am my salary, I am my success, I am my failure. And then one sincere question, sincere inquiry about Krishna awakens the soul. So Srimad Bhagavatam is our daily spiritual alarm clock. It helps us connect with Krishna, remember Krishna. So now, if we think about it, we'll find that every practicing devotee lives this verse actually. We, as a part of our commitment or, efforts towards spiritual advancement, we chant 16 mala in the morning and we feel grateful. By noon, we receive an email from our, let's say some devotee we have to work with, or in our work environment, we get an email from manager, project is delayed. Someone else receives the credit. Things happen in life. Immediately, under the effect of modes of nature, for example, Rajoguna, mode of passion, it may take over. I worked so hard. That's unfair. I deserve recognition. Why is my contract discontinued suddenly without appropriate notice? All kind of things can happen. And just their, mind takes over. So now where is Krishna's remembrance? Gone. Let us talk about another scenario. Someone returns home after a long day. Kitchen is untidy. Children are arguing. There are bills to take care of. And very gently, our mode of ignorance whispers, nobody appreciates me. Nothing will change. Why should I continue? And then, where is the remembrance? So, recently we attended Rath Yatra at Harrisburg. Many devotees were beautifully engaged in services. And so thousands appreciated the festival. And then, amidst all this, even one criticism affects the mind. The entire mind becomes absorbed in single criticism. Whereas being in the mode of goodness gives clarity, mode of passion may give agitation, and mode of ignorance gives hopelessness. What I'm trying to say here, staying entangled in different modes may prevent one from being in remembrance of Krishna. However, bhakti invites us to remember Krishna in every condition. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, beautiful references are there from Bhagavad Gita. He says to Arjun, therefore at all times remember me and at the same time perform your duty. Now please notice, he does not say remember me after your difficulties are over. He says remember me while fighting your battle. So now Uddhav state says, we read in the purport, he appeared to regret that he had forgotten the lotus feet of the Lord. Now this is an amazing sentence. Did Uddhav actually forget Krishna? No. Pure love always considers itself insufficient. And again, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, those who always think of me with exclusive devotion. Remember that verse? So this remarkable quality of advanced devotees is humility. Humility is not just staying with folded hands and, your humble servant, your fallen servant. Humility has to be practiced, and in many ways, we will see Prabhupada says that remembering Lord is humility. Listening attentively is humility. Being mindful and careful is humility. So devotees never think, I am an advanced devotee. They think, I have not remembered Krishna enough. So we read that Srimati Radharani, she sometimes laments, perhaps Krishna has forgotten me. Can Krishna forget really? Can he forget Srimati Radharani? So Vaishnavacharyas explain that no. Yet love naturally produces humility. Similarly, Uddhav feels separation even while immersed in remembrance. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, recently in CC reading, there's a beautiful chapter in Madhya Leela, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, chapter 4, pure devotional service of Madhavendra Puri. And in that chapter, I'm giving a quick reference. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as he narrated the pastime of Madhavendra Puri, he went into ecstasy, and it's described remembering, in remembrance of Lord in separation, the ecstasy. Only three people can understand. Who can understand? Radharani, Madhavendra Puri, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. There is no fourth. That's what is mentioned there. So, yet, devotees are at different stages of pure devotion, and they may have advanced level of these ecstasies. So now, we often have a tendency, even though we know we should not be doing negative self-talk, we should speak positively, think positively. But when situations happen, even devotees, they tend to go through these emotions, negative emotions. they may think, oh, I lost money, I lost my promotion, I lost an argument, and they may have some feelings of regret. I forgot gratitude, I forgot patience, I forgot that my spouse is also Krishna's servant. I forgot that devotee who disagreed with me is trying to serve the same guru. So the way to look at it is, this regret does not produce depression. This produces purification. The minute we feel grateful for the gifts we receive, or we lament that I could have done better in service of Guru and Krishna, or in treating other devotees, that should not produce depression, because it is an opportunity to purify. So speaking of Rath Yatras, there has been New York Rath Yatra recently, Harrisburg Rath Yatra, and we are looking forward for Gitanagari Rath Yatra and Philadelphia Rath Yatra here in US, but in India, of course, main Rath Yatra is also coming up. So my question is, we know Lord Jagannath comes out of his temple to embrace everyone. Do we carry Jagannath only on the cart, or do we hold him into our conversations too, in our thoughts too, in our remembrance too? And sometimes we greet guests with folded hands, but speak sharply to devotees serving beside us. Sometimes we lovingly distribute prasadam to strangers, but become impatient with our own family. If our remembrance is genuine, it should first transform the way we treat those closest to us. And we have wonderful quotes by Vaishnava Acharyas around this. We should treat others as if our whole spiritual life depends on it. It's a famous quote by His Holiness Bhakti Swami. So, Srila Prabhupada, his famous quote, he said, your love for me will be shown by how much you cooperate. So, remembrance is not just like here, remembrance. Even cooperation is remembrance expressed through behavior. So we are talking about several things in this verse actually. We are talking about silence, we are talking about remembrance of the Lord, and then there is ecstasy part also. Then in purport, Srila Prabhupada says, he again remembered. Who is he? He again remembered the lotus feet of the Lord and remembered all his transcendental loving service. Who is he here? Anyone remembers? I want to see if you all are awake and listening carefully. Who is he
Uddhav.
here?
Uddhav.
Yes, Prabhu. That is Uddhav. So, Bhagavad Gita has a very personal instruction. Manmana bhav madbhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Chapter 18, 65th verse. Most of you know. Always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, and offer your obeisances. So, relating to this, notice that Uddhav does not first remember philosophy. What did he do? He again remembered the lotus feet of Lord and remembered all his transcendental loving service. So he remembers service. Perhaps he remembers arranging Krishna's seat or receiving his instructions, walking beside him, smiling with him. Now, many out here on this call may think how fortunate he was having the personal association of Lord. And you may even reflect back, many devotees get Vapu service. Vapu service, there is two ways identified. We can serve personally, or we can serve through instructions, Vapu and Vani. But message for us is love remembers service more than achievement. Many years from now, we may forget the size of certain festival we attend or served, how many people attended, all the statistics. But we will never forget. For example, in Rath Yatra, will we forget that Lord Jagannath allowed us to pull his cart, to wash his pots, to cut his vegetables, gave us the opportunity to welcome the guests or encourage some struggling souls. So these are our eternal possessions to remember. This is how we remember the services. Now that's a different thing. Someone got service and it was taken away at the last moment. That doesn't leave very good impression to remember, but they are also for remembering, because eventually one realizes the bigger picture much later. The param drishtva nirvṛtaḥ, the higher vision. So every instance of some adversity has a lesson behind it. So now, talking about adversity, it's a very important topic. All living entities, we as devotees, we also experience adversities. As long as we are on this journey to develop pure love, we will experience adversities while anartha nivritti, purification is going on. So something to think about is, now that everybody understands living entity, maybe under the effect of modes of nature, we should think which mode is influencing my remembrance right now. If I'm restless, perhaps mode of passion is covering my remembrance. If I'm discouraged, perhaps mode of ignorance is covering my remembrance. But if I feel peaceful, still if there is some pride in that, then maybe mode of goodness needs purification. And then we can gently return prayerfully to Guru and Krishna's instruction. Krishna says, remember me and continue your service. And that is exactly what Uddhav is teaching here. Srimad Bhagavatam is identifying to us. Srila Prabhupada is helping us understand that Uddhav is teaching without speaking a single word. And I'm keeping the best for the last. I'm going to share some reflections I thought about for this class today. So now I want to ask you all one quick, I need just one or two responses. Okay. So how do you feel when you have to experience silence from the other party, when you are expecting some response from them? How do you feel? Hare Krishna, quick response. It can be about anything. You're expecting some response from the other party, and maybe two people in conversation, or let us say you send out a very beautiful message on the WhatsApp group in a group of devotees, and you see after a while, wow, 37 devotees read the message, no response, no like, nothing. How do you feel? Or a company mail, work-related mail. So because here it says, Uddhav became silent because he was absorbed in Krishna. But this is Kali age, and people have become silent in many ways actually. Consider the case of a husband and wife. They have an argument. 3 days, nobody speaks to each other. Wife is thinking he should apologize, and husband is thinking, I won't be the first one to talk. And meanwhile, bigger picture is none of them is remembering Krishna. So, on one hand, silence leads to purification, but silence can also increase false ego. So external symptom looks identical, but the internal consciousness is completely different. I talked about work-related emails. Someone, sends out an email, everyone reads it, nobody replies. 6 hours later, someone writes, oh, just circling back, and, some message. After 12 hours, another one replies, gentle reminder, and some response on that. And maybe one day later, someone says something else. So, if you have any interest, if you happen to research about it, you will find this is a form of passive aggression actually. But here we are not talking about passive aggression. Uddhav's silence is deepened form of love. And silence in material consciousness deepens misunderstandings. I also gave an example of WhatsApp group. Okay. For example, temple president or a service coordinator puts, can anyone help with cleanup after the festival? Okay. So many blue ticks. Okay. 30, 40 people have read it, but there is absolute silence. And then someone finally replies, Hari bol, wonderful service. But still nobody volunteers. So this is not the kind of silence described or recommended in Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay. So, so we have several examples. We are recommended not to engage in prajalpa. So on one hand, we are learning how the silence is in service of the Lord. Internally, there can be a lot of purification and remembrance of the Lord going on. But if that's not the case, it is actually another form of prajalpa because mind is doing the talking. So today, many people you may find, they may say, I spent 2 hours without talking. Wonderful. But who knows? Internally, they had so many arguments with so many people. They planned revenge on so many. They replayed an old insult so many times. And mentally, they renovated the entire home or entire kitchen. What happens when you don't chant attentively? This is what it is about. This is what mind does. So external silence, whereas internal full Netflix series. Here, Uddhav was externally silent because his heart was full of Krishna. This is our inspiration. This is what we have to learn. We are often externally silent because our mind is full of ourselves. And that is why, this is the hope and promise of devotional service, Navida Bhakti. We learn how to subdue the mind, manage the mind, and so that it is not chattering always, but it is also engaged in service and helps us remember Krishna. So now, one more experience. For example, because it's Rath Yatra season, someone asks you, Prabhu, are you okay? You just, pull the cart, help, out of your eagerness and enthusiasm. And you arrived at the destination. The deities have been brought down and placed where everybody can take darshan. And someone says, Prabhu, are you okay? And you have volunteered for hours and you say, I'm fine. Internally, what's happening often, I have been standing in sun for 6 hours. Nobody appreciated me. Someone moved my shoes somewhere. Someone criticized my service. And I have no chance to have prasadam yet. I even don't know if it would be left by the time I go there. Here we can see all the examples of modes, different modes. And this is the silence. No, we are not looking at this kind of silence because Uddha's silence comes from pure love. And so each of us, we have learned through life experiences and periods of silence according to modes influencing us. What does silence in Tamogun look like? I give up. I don't care. I won't talk to anyone. I want to be left alone. This is a typical case of mode of. Someone, please. Someone, please suggest what kind of mode is this? Is it mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance? A lot
Ignorance.
of self-talk. What is that?
Ignorance.
Yes, that's mode of ignorance. And then someone who thinks like, I'll make them suffer. I'll wait until they apologize. I will just show them how it is done. How dare they find my faults and mistakes? And, often having a lot of conflict situations around. What kind of mode is that? Hare Krishna, mode of passion. We have characteristics of different modes described in Bhagavad Gita in chapter 17. And so that helps us understand better. And now silence. Silence in mode of goodness. I should think before I speak. What does it help with? It helps create clarity. Whereas, let's talk about silence in bhakti. What does it look like? What is Uddhav experiencing here, or what is the message for us? I am remembering Krishna, I am remembering Guru, I am remembering that this person is also Krishna's beloved servant. And this silence creates compassion and respect for others. And that is why we should glorify Krishna, we should glorify Guru, we should glorify the devotees of the Lord. Find one small quality if you can't find many, and appreciate that. Always be respectful, humble. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's beautiful teaching, Tranadapi Sunichena, Tranadapi Sunichena, Tarurapi Sahishuna, Amanena Manadena, Kirtanya Sadahari. Never expecting recognition, and like a blade of grass, like a tree, always be humble and tolerant. And in that kind of mood, one can engage or please Guru and Krishna. And do you think if one can please Guru and Krishna, they will not be in remembrance of their services to them, or not remember the instructions of Guru and Krishna? And this is the way to be peaceful. And so now Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that among the secrets I am silence. Now, chapter 10 of Bhagavad Gita, titled Opulences of the Lord, all over Krishna has described how one can see Krishna all around, in all living entities and things and everything. And he says, among secrets, I am silence. So Srila Prabhupada explains that real silence does not mean merely closing the mouth. It means stopping useless talk and engaging the mind in Krishna. Now, further, Vaishnavacharyas have given wonderful talks around that, how to, for example, transform our material consciousness to Krishna consciousness, how to practice Yukta Vairagya, instead of doing all negation talk, to actually use everything. So similarly, if someone is gifted with wonderful abilities to speak, they should speak. This is the austerity of speech. On one hand, the austerity of speech is described in Bhagavad Gita is to chant from the Vedas, and we know chanting the holy names. But this is a big austerity to properly be silent, not engage in prajalpa. Stop useless talk. Speak when necessary, and speak which is beneficial and useful and pleasing. And so everything adds up. Everything helps us in our spiritual life. So now, another classic example, and will really help everybody, those who really need help to understand this even better. For example, in material life or in material consciousness, silence often means I am upset with you. Whereas, practitioners of bhakti, for them, silence means I am making an effort to be absorbed in Krishna. I will make an endeavor and depend on Guru and Krishna's mercy. And so on one side, silence can build walls, whereas such spiritual silence builds bridges. It builds bridges, connects us back to Krishna. So now, there are two kinds of devotees who become completely silent during a lecture. One is Uddhav, who is completely absorbed in remembrance of Krishna, and another is devotee who didn't sleep after Rath Yatra and is trying very hard to remember where they parked the car. I'm just trying to make you all laugh, but today, maybe our silence, we should prayerfully, sometimes reflect on this, that may our silence be like Uddhav's, not the silence of like ego or exhaustion or resentment, but the silence of a heart overflowing with remembrance of the Lord. And so, silence is never really silent. Even when words stop, our consciousness continues to speak, and we all have experience of that. So, if you hear to so many coaches and speakers, they talk a lot about everything, how everything is energy, everything is vibration. Ego has a vibration, anger has a vibration, compassion has a vibration, and increase your frequency to come to that level of vibration of gratitude, because gratitude also has a vibration. And so remembrance of Krishna also has a vibration. Please note, Uddhav said nothing. That's what is mentioned. Yet his silence filled the atmosphere with devotion. And who is witnessing that? Vidur is witnessing that. So a sincere, who is Vidur for us? Vidur is a sincere seeker. He is a saint. He is a very exalted devotee. Okay, so to imbibe his qualities and his exemplary life, we can take inspiration from these pastimes which we are reading. So, we often think communication happens through words, but in devotional life, consciousness communicates before words do. Did you ever feel when you're around certain devotees, like you feel certain vibes, like very favorable? So some communication happens even without speaking through words. We may say Hare Krishna Prabhu, yet internally some hearts may hold some resentment at times, or we may say nothing at all, yet our humility, our affection and remembrance creates a atmosphere where everyone feels welcome, respected. And that is the silence that pleases Guru and Krishna. So earlier I mentioned vibes. People often say, I got good vibes, bad vibes. And Bhagavatam says that consciousness carries its own fragrance. And Uddhav's silence was filled with, what was it filled with? Remembrance, gratitude, love. So without even speaking a word, he glorified Krishna. Vidur asked him to speak about Krishna. So our silence may also send a message. But the question is, does our silence communicate ego or devotion? Does it create distance or invite remembrance? So now this is a part of life. Devotees also experience a lot of criticism. They may fall sick. They may have financial stress. They may experience some conflicts within family, outside family. So, but then immediate approach described in these personal development books is fight or flight, right? Many of you may already know. So there are two kinds of silence. One says, leave me alone. Another says, Krishna, please don't let me forget you in this difficulty. What did Prabhupada say? Famous words by Srila Prabhupada, let me always remember you. Let me never forget you. So there is such a difference in both kind of moods and consciousness. So words reveal our intelligence, but silence reveals our consciousness. And if for some reason, if the heart is filled with, there can be things, anarthas, which we call envy, pride, anger, then what happens? Silence may become cold and distant. But if the heart is filled with remembrance of Guru and Krishna, then silence becomes association. And Uddhav's silence did not create confusion. It created a sacred space, that vibe I mentioned earlier, where Vidur experienced presence of Krishna. So I will wrap up this talk now. there is a beautiful lesson. There are many lessons here for us. Silence itself is not spiritual. It is the consciousness that fills the silence that matters. A devotee absorbed in remembrance, often they may not even utter a word, yet everyone feels encouraged, accepted, inspired. And such silence is never misunderstood because it carries, what does it carry? It carries that fragrance of humility, gratitude, love. And that is why, here Vidur did not feel uncomfortable with Uddhav. It made him witness pure devotion. So, in our prayers, we can also hope that our words be guided by remembrance, and may our silence also speak in a way that pleases Guru and Krishna and devotees and brings peace to every heart around us. Thank you so much. Granth-raj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Bhagavad ki jai, Anant Koti Vaishnavan ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for going extensively into silence and what it means, and even going through the modes to give examples about silence in different modes. And of course, the one that you stressed the most is what's in the text about Uddhava's kind of silence, remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So much that you've given us. Thank you very, very much. Dear devotees, this is a time to unmute yourself if you have any questions, if you have any comments. Please unmute yourself and express them so that we can have some Krishna Katha. Shameful, accept humble obeisances, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Please unmute and go ahead. Hare Krishna.
Please accept my humble obeisances, all glories to Sri Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for this beautiful class. Yeah, I really liked what you mentioned towards the beginning too about the Srimad Bhagavatam being our spiritual alarm clock. I sometimes don't place as much importance on the Srimad Bhagavatam readings as the chanting. So it's a nice reminder. Also that mistakes make room for improvement. I seem to, like you mentioned, beat up myself for a mistake instead of using it to keep going forward and focus on the goal of growing closer to Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your observations and what you picked up from it, advice. Hare Krishna. Any other questions? Any other comments? Devotees? I particularly appreciate the whole class, the different aspects that you went into regarding silence. It's not the easiest lecture to give, but it's just, I was really, really, really very much impressed. Thank you again. Niru Mataji, please unmute yourself and share. Yeah, now, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mataji, I just want to express my gratitude for today's beautiful session. We learned the importance of silence, and it is the consciousness that matters in the silence. Silence can also mean ego or negative emotions. Silence can also convey remembrance of the Lord. So we pray that our silence should be helpful in remembering the Lord, and so beautifully explained. Thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji, for nice comments about the class. I feel the same way also with the things that you expressed about the class. Any other comments or questions? We're at the top of the hour, so any final questions or comments? If not, then we'd like to thank all of you for coming. Nice beginning of the class. And yes, it's after Rati. After you mentioned silence means trying to keep the body of person. I must be one of them, but I'm very hard to keep awake because what you were talking about was so. The class itself kept me awake because it was just nice. That's so many points coming.
We recently were, most of us were in Rath Yatra. I thought that would be a good example to, reflect on and relate to.
Yeah, very much. Thank you, Mataji. Jai. And for your services at Rath Yatra also, you and your husband, give it to Jai. All right, everybody, have a wonderful, we have a beginning of the week with Krishna consciousness. And when you're silent, it should be all about remembering Krishna. Hare Krishna. Jai.
Thank you.
Vanchakapaturu Krishna Kripa Sindhivya Evacha Patitanam Pavanevyu Vaishnavevyu Namo Namaha. Jai. Hare Krishna. Glory to Srila Prabhupada. Jai.